faith. Have faith. Believe in your source. Have faith.
Welcome to Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs, the podcast that dives deep into the stories of trailblazers who shape our world. Our co-host, Lulu Benavides, is a seasoned entrepreneur in the beauty industry, is a photographer, artist, and the proud owner of Lulu's The Salon in Galveston, Texas. Our other co-host, Sue Croconis Hansen, is a visionary in the entrepreneurial world with years of experience in business innovation and development. Together, they bring you insights, inspiration, and the journeys of remarkable individuals who have made their mark. And with that, let's get started. Dr. Leon Alexander is president and CEO of Eurisco Design. Leon launched his company in 2006 with a vision of designing space around the emotional needs of the consumer, creating spaces that are consumer-driven versus service-driven. Originally from London, England, Leon began his career as the general manager of the Vidal Sassoon organization. He went on to acquire and direct a collection of 320 beauty salons located mainly in the United Kingdom. Leon next launched AVD Cosmetics and is credited with growing the company to $40 million in sales. Leon's educational background includes a doctorate degree in behavioral psychology from Roehampton University in London. He has designed and presented a wide range of educational courses including Why People Buy, The Ultimate Consumer Location, Creative and Lateral Thinking, and Neuromarketing. He has presented at TED Talks as a member of Mensa and has been on many industry podcasts. His primary objective is to elevate the level of thinking in the beauty industry from owning a business to owning a business. Author of A Window into the Consumer's Mind and From Comfort to Growth.
Everyone,
Let's welcome in Dr. Leon Alexander.
The podcast where creative and innovative come together to inspire greatness. I'm Lulu Benavides with my amazing co-host, amazing, Sue Croconis Hansen, and we're so excited to be here today. This podcast is a space to celebrate extraordinary individuals who transform their passion into legacy, turn their ideals into movements, and use their creativity to make an impact. Whether you're an artist, refining your craft, an entrepreneur, building a business, or simply someone looking for a spark of inspiration, you're at the right place. Each episode, we explore the journeys of our guests and unpack the success, learning from their challenges, and discover the drive behind their achievement. Today, we are thrilled to kick things off with Leon Alexander, PhD, a true trailblazer in the beauty industry. His remarkable story of passion, innovation, and perseverance has led you and inspired ready to take your own dreams. So pour yourself a cup of coffee or your choice of beverage. And this episode is Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs.
Welcome, Leon. We're so excited to have you with us today, and we just can't wait to get your input and hear about your life.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
So, Leon, take us back to the beginning of your career and kind of walk through us what has happened, the transformation from being behind the chair and to general manager of Vidal Sassoon to now. What are you doing now?
Well, I started at a very young age with a PhD in behavioral psychology. And what do you do with a doctorate in behavioral psychology and no life skills? You go into the beauty business. There's enough material for a behavioral psychologist in our industry for a whole career. Yeah. And I joined late 60s Vidal Sassoon. Mm-hmm. I got rejected, first of all, which is understandable. But then I joined as a Varderer. And what a Varderer means is that you watch. You don't get paid in those days. You just watch and you study and you do a model in the evening. And it took me quite a period of time before I qualified to be a stylist. I was mindful of watching the talent during the late 60s, early 70s of Vidal. And I recognized quickly that I could copy a design, but I was not as innovative creatively as Christopher Brooker or Trevor Sorby or people like that, and many others.
Yeah.
They had this innovation of hair. It was very natural. And what I could do is I could watch them and I could copy their designs, but I could never really think of the innovation of the new looks. Just didn't have that ability.
Yeah.
So I went down the route of management, and Manchester opened up and I became assistant manager and eventually became manager and then became general manager. In those days, there was no management training. I mean, basically you had the keys and you had the position, but there was no business and management training. What it taught me was really passion, dedication. It taught me discipline. All those kind of things, when I see how hard people work and how passionate they were, it was infectious. If you are in that culture, it's infectious. And I ended up being with Sassoons for about 11 years.
Wow, yeah.
To 1980.
Yeah.
So that's what really got me in. I didn't really have the attributes to do anything else at that time, and it seemed exciting. London, England at that time, late 60s, was buzzing. I mean, Vidal Sassoon was trailblazing. Mary Quant was in fashion. The Beatles, the music scene. It was really a good place to be.
Yeah. And everyone in America was copying everything English, including anything we could get our hands on from Vidal Sassoon.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, you know, Lulu and I have both been in the beauty industry all of our lives and have worn many different hats. And I feel like every step on the journey, there's a real life lesson to learn. If you reflect back on your time at Vidal Sassoon, is there one thing that really sticks out to you that you can say, yeah, that's where that comes from. That's where I learned that lesson?
Well, there was a plethora of pioneers that stepped outside their comfort zone. Hairdressing prior to that was shampoo and set, daily routine. You know, and I relate that to where we are today. And I always say that this isn't a time to stay in a comfort zone.
Correct.
This is a time for a clear, concise application of a vision. And it really stemmed from Sassoon in those days. It drove me there.
Absolutely.
The goal is to be consumer-centric and profit-centric. That's the goal. It's we must have the courage to set our sights very high, so high, in fact, that even failure has a tinge of glory in it.
Yes.
That those are the ones that are successful in any form of life. I'm not talking about just the beauty industry. I'm talking about life.
Right.
Think about people who've been phenomenally successful in any walk of life. They've been pioneers. They've stepped out their comfort zone. They actually went for it. You know? And with a calculated plan, they did it. They did it by failing a lot of times. You know the old story of Edison, when people say, well, you failed 1,000 times. And he said, no, I had 1,000 learning lessons before I was successful.
My favorite quote is by Roosevelt, and it's about the man in the ring who dares to try and to achieve greatness. Yeah, and even if he fails, striving for greatness. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to host some athletes, pro athletes, female, at my house. And I was always amazed at their story that they had prior to becoming a pro athlete. And all of them go back to the same thing, is that no one sees what goes behind closed doors. Everybody sees the glory that they won first place, whether they're running, swimming, or biking. They don't see what goes on behind closed doors. And that's the beauty about, you know.
Well, those athletes that you mentioned had an expectancy. They expected it. I mean, expectancy determines the outcome. By changing the internal dialogue, you can influence your chemistry, which changes the outcome.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. So you have fallen in love with the beauty industry and you acquired what, direct 320 salons? Is
Yes.
that so? Can you share with the audience about the business adventure?
Well, it wasn't organic, it was acquisition. And it was a period of time when business was booming in the UK.
Yeah.
And we acquired a group that really trained Vidal in the 50s. It's a group called Raymond,
Oh, yeah.
and he invented backcombing.
Oh, wow.
And his nickname was Teasy Weezy.
Of course it was.
And you can Google that because I think it's still around. But no, he was a flamboyant guy. Back in the 50s, he used to wear dinner jackets that were tartan, and he came on stage with blue and pink poodles. Well, Britain in the 50s was pretty great.
Yeah.
And so then we eventually acquired 5 other companies and amalgamated them into one corporation with a partner, and ended up owning 320. The reason it was successful is because the effectiveness of the business model is determined by the quality of the business plan. I've always looked at it a little different. The success of the business plan is determined by sheer courage and a total application to implement that plan. You could have a great business plan, but if you don't
Implement.
But I look at things a little differently in those days. I've brought this forward to today. I create what is known as a strategic blueprint. And that's a single piece of paper that on the left column, what is your core purpose? What is your vision? What is your mission? What is your sustainable competitive advantage? What do you do or your business does that nobody else does? And I go through all of these. And then the next column, I think, well, okay, well, what are my resources? What's my financial resource? What is my technological resource? What is my human resource? Because you can't do your vision unless you've got your resources correct.
Right.
And then the next column, I have, what are my initiatives? I might have 3 or 4 initiatives. These are the ones that I want to achieve. And then the next column is, what are my strategies to make sure my initiatives are implemented? And finally, what are my key measurements? How do I know that I've achieved it? How do I measure that? So I call that a strategic blueprint, and I do that for every business or challenge or thing that I want to do, bring forward. So it kind of supersedes a business plan. The business plan is something you write, but it's not necessarily actionable unless you do something.
Yeah.
Right.
With a strategic blueprint, you're forced to have a strategy, you're forced to have an initiative, and you're forced to measure it. And within the realms of your resources, that has to be in alignment with your vision and your mission, and what is your sustainable competitive advantage and your core purpose. So all of that encompasses your chance of success becomes greater.
Wow.
I had a meager 9 salons and a school, and I was always prone to think business minded. So developing the financial strategic plan of action, that sort of came natural to me. Managing a group of 100 or more creative people, I found that to try and get everyone on the same page and to focus on the vision was a unique and ongoing challenge. And I just have to think that there are a lot of owners and even people who maybe just are on their own today trying to find their way to communicate their plan. Do you have any tips for the people that are in the trenches today trying to
Yeah, it's, the 80s and 90s was a different period.
Completely.
There's a lot to learn from this generation. Additionally, they have a lot to learn from the past. As long as we can recognize that we can learn from each other and we're open-minded, finding quality people in any industry is difficult.
Right.
But there has to be for most, not all, a path and a growth for them. We can show a vision of where the company is going,
Right.
and show a vision of where their part in that growth is. You will capture. I surrounded myself when I had that company with people smarter than me in different sections. That I had someone at PR much better than me. I had someone in marketing. I had someone in finance director. And so I surrounded my people with smarter than me individuals, and I gave them the responsibility. I delegated as such everything other than the tasks that had the greatest effect on the business. All the rest I delegated and gave responsibility to. And I think, there are people that will thrive on responsibility. They'll thrive on that. Creative director that was greater than me, that I had free reign to do what they wanted. So, and each company had that. So there was growth pattern. We are in a unique period where a certain sector of the generation don't really want to work for other people. It's a challenge in all industries. So how do we make it exciting? How do we make it inclusive? How do we make it a growth pattern so that they can grow in alignment where the company's going? So as long as you've got that growth pattern of the company and you're working the growth and you're bringing your people up, that creates more space for others to come up. There has to be a perpetual growth for them to do that. Otherwise, why would they stay at any company? They have to be excited by that vision. There's many companies that I know that are outside of the industry that have a tremendous growth pattern, and they keep people a long, long time. So, there's no magic wand. There's just basic common sense and a vision to develop people to achieve their best, even if they're not aware of it.
Right. Yeah.
So what you're saying in essence is to create that individual by setting them goals, to reach those goals, and to be part of your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Back in the days, there were people that came into offices that they did the same thing every day. They had a lunch break, tea break, and went home at 5:00.
Right.
Those days are over. This generation doesn't want to do that. They want to be part of something. They want to grow, and good for them. I mean, but we have to create that environment. Those, I should say.
Yeah.
For them to do that. It's all about, if you're in the people business, it's about developing your own people to be able to be part of your vision, part of your growth, and to be able to implement it. It's a very interesting industry at the moment. Currently, the business is in two distinct camps, I would say. Those that believe they own or work in a salon, and another more enlightened camp, which accepts that society's moved into the digital era. When you marry the two aspects of excellent service and a great digital marketing, you've got a business model that has no place for legacy thinking.
Right.
You can't build a future with legacy thinking.
Right.
Today's initiatives are tomorrow's minimum standards with increasing rapidity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The whole arena of education, which I know you have vast knowledge on, has greatly changed with the newer generation of stylists because they want instant access. They need those breadcrumbs to get them started and take them down the road. I'm curious. I have to read this because I know that you've developed such a wide range of education. You've done TED Talks. You've done all of these different things. And you're, currently the president and CEO of Revolutionizing Design. So I'm curious, with everything that you have accomplished in your life, from Vidal Sassoon to running a large chain of salons to being in the cosmetic business, How did this all fold in with your vision to start an ESCO? What's that all about? What are you doing that's your unique factor in what you do, other than you? Because I sense you're a very unique and special person.
Well, I formed Eurisco Design using the same strategic blueprint, but before I started, I studied the industry and I was mindful of what Walt Disney said. Think of what the competition are doing. They do completely the opposite. Don't go down the road less traveled. And instead of designing space around a service business, which traditionally is what happens, I studied the consumer. I designed the space, Eurisco designs the space around the emotions of the consumer, accommodating the functionality of service. That's exactly what Apple stores do. They design their space to seduce and allure people into the store and get them to touch the products. So, it's emulating the best practices of successful retailers outside the industry, successful marketers like Walt Disney, retailers like Apple, and service providers like Michelin restaurants. They study the consumer and build their business model around their emotions. That's what I did in salon design. We design it so that every zone creates environmental psychology. In the color area, it has to be exciting. In the shampoo area, it has to be relaxing. In the styling area, it has to be energetic. In the retail area, it's got to be a buying environment. So subliminally, you are in different zones of behavioral psychology, environmental psychology. And so if you design your space around their emotions, then you accommodate the functionality of service. You've got people recognize it in that environment. It's not a case of, we've got some space, let's put some chairs there or stations there. It's where the consumers are going to feel that emotion.
Right.
And that really is what we decided to do. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to design it so that color becomes a feature. So you go through the color to get to everything else. I wanted to design it so that we had unique materials like lacquer instead of laminate, stainless steel and acrylic, so that the materials are high end. And walking there, you feel it important. Like if you go into an Apple store or Walmart, you feel differently. Not that there's anything wrong. It's just that you feel a different environment. If you go into a Michelin restaurant, the way it's designed, and a cafe, you will feel different. So we're trying to seduce the consumer to feel emotion. It's all about emotion. Life is about emotion. In the annals of salon history, we are experiencing a mile marker that points to this unprecedented time, the period where our industry shifted of its traditional access. Change will not come if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change we seek.
Yeah.
I don't allow the word impossible in my vocabulary. Impossible is where logical thinking ends.
Right.
And creative thinking begins. The world achievers have always focused on the possible to see today.
And that's so true, is that if you work on people or the consumer emotions, then everything else will fall into place. But it all begins with that emotion, how they feel. How they feel.
Mary Angela said, just people will remember how they feel.
Right, exactly.
It's about the ideology as well of the salon. And, at the core of every great salon sits an ideology. You're always one decision away from a totally different life and business. One decision away.
Well, I've noticed in my particular business is that where the older stylists, like myself, we never took a lunch. Because we always worked. We always just worked. That was just part of who we are. Now, I have a younger group of people, and they take a lunch break. They take time off. So I've had to change the way I think and the way I work. Not some, well, what they're doing. You even, I don't take a lunch break. Well, I don't work that much, but I do work. It's you working through that, giving them that lunch break helps their mindset, helps their body, helps, they think differently than what I do, or, the older people do. So it's interesting. The digital marketing is totally digital. It's totally different than what it used to be because we didn't have digital at that time. So now you have to play on having a website, having online booking, have things that the consumer wants and needs because they can make an appointment in their pajamas at 2:00 in the morning.
It's very interesting you say that because although you are correct, the generation thinks differently to us, they think differently to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is an individual. So, what is right for one isn't necessarily right for the other. People absorb information differently. Some are auditory, some are visual, some are kinesthetic. So
Correct.
you have to really understand your people. So if they're auditory, you tell them what they want to hear.
Exactly.
And if they're visual, show them what they want to see. And otherwise go to emotions. The future of any business that's in the service business, it's not about service only. Mm-hmm. It's not about experience. Mm-hmm. It's about personalized experience. So that's why I say they're all different to each other. Mm-hmm. If I was to give you a value-added service, like a complimentary hand massage, scalp massage, or makeup touch-up, it's an experience. Yeah, but if I did it to the next person, it's a generic one.
Right.
The future is personalized experiences. Mm-hmm. Each person as an individual. I don't want to be a number. I want to be treated as an individual.
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally key. The services you do, the technology. Mm-hmm. Later on, we'll talk a little bit how technology is going to really make a difference in our industry. But that, to me, is the key. And we have to entertain people. Mm-hmm. That's another function. I always say that the salon is a stage. All the staff are actors. The customers are the audience. And our job is to entertain them.
Exactly.
One of the things that I've struggled with, which fits in beautifully with what you're saying, is in trying to adapt this old brain and these old traditional methods and embrace the change because you're not going to stop it. There's two distinct things that I've had to wrestle with. The one is my generation, Lulu's generation, we were highly motivated by money. If you said, what does success look like? Show me your shoes, show me your car, show me your jewelry. That's how we define. The younger generation today is not necessarily, although money is important, they are much more apt to be motivated by feeling and experience than they are money. The problem is we have to learn how to give that to them because that's not our life learned experience. And the other thing that I struggle with is these poor young people have really grown up in a time of instant everything. I mean, you look at the average 25, 30-year-old, and that's the mature ones, take 18 or 9, everything has been instant. The problem is you don't become very good or even great in this industry instantly. It takes a lot of constant work and small bites of success. And one day you get there, but they are so hungry to have success quickly. And that's something that we have to constantly be reinventing in how we can help them achieve those goals so that they do feel like they're constantly moving forward.
We used to do quarterly appraisals on one-on-one people.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't us just telling them, it was them telling us. So it's a two-way conversation. And some people, as you say, are motivated by money. Some people motivated by promotion. Some motivated by traveling. I mean, there's it goes back to not having one brushstroke for everyone. It's being personal, finding out what makes this person tick and that person, and creating a personal growth plan for each one. That to me is the only way forward, and having the right people with empathy and understanding and listening skills to be able to evaluate and recommend what is appropriate for them. It's I've always said, decide who you are and how you want to feel, then reject everything that doesn't align with your choices. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
So, conveying that to people in either a visual, auditory, or that way, that's because if I said that to an audience, a third will say yes, a third won't understand it, and a third will think, well, maybe I'll do that in 6 months' time. So there isn't I speak at different events around the country, and I know that I have a mixture, a common denominator of different absorption rates and intellect. So I have a choice. I can bore them or I can stretch them. You're never going to hit that level where whatever you say meets everybody. I would rather show them a vision of the future. And some people will get it, and some people say, I didn't understand that. They come back, and that's a good question. The truth is, there's a segment that will never get it. And, you have to be honest, and say that this is life. Right. This is not just the beauty industry, and it's not your salon, it's not your thing, it's life.
Right.
So you have to gravitate to people who need support, need help, and you are the catalyst to help them develop their career.
Which really is the beautiful thing about our industry. I think if you find people who've owned salons, who've been in salon industry for any length of time, and you say, what really motivates you? Developing people and watching people grow is the greatest gift that you can have. When I never set out to own a chain of salons, but how it developed was, after you go through about your third or fourth walkout and you have to start over, you say, well, now why did these people leave me? And you finally get to the answer is because they want to have what you have. So I started saying to my key people, now, if you get to the point where you're thinking about opening your salon, why don't we do it together? We could open another salon because I need to have somebody that I trust and know and will do things and has a good business foundation. And honestly, that's really how I wound up with salons, because you realize that people want to grow. Most people, most good people, most ambitious people want to grow, either creatively or business-wise. So you have to build that in. Like you said, everyone's a little different, but that's the greatest feeling in the world, is to make other people successful.
So I'm going to share something with you that we talked about. This is an interesting time. People are not showing extreme profits. Some are breaking even, some are losing, some are making a small profit. The goal is not to take the business to the next level. Quite frankly, I don't know what that means. How do you measure the next level? The goal, period, is to maximize the profitability of the business. That is the goal. And if you've got 1,500 square feet and you've got 6,000 feet, your maximize will be different. But you can do it on a feasibility study to see what the maximum is. So that is the goal. Words matter. They matter. They reinforce paradigms and perceptions. So I believe we should stop calling them salons and see what happens. They're just spaces with audiences. Run with it. Blow up the model. Have fun and reinvent. Vidal Sassoon never said Vidal Sassoon salon. Right? I mean, Apple has nothing to do with technology. So what I'm saying is that the fundamental goal of the business is to maximize the profitability. So why, when possible, aren't salons doing additional income opportunities other than their core business of hair? So what we've done in the past is design salons space with champagne bars, wine bars, coffee bars that convert wine bars in the evening, additional retail other than hair products. We're fixed with a comfort zone and mindset that we're a salon and we do hair. CVS only has 35%. They're a pharmacy of pharmaceutical things. They sell everything else. Gas stations don't just sell gas. Starbucks, the greatest amount of Starbucks is not coffee, it's other things. So
Correct.
Once you put salon, it kind of labels you. If you actually say the Vidal Sassoon, for example, you could sell anything relating to that consumer. See, that's the other thing. I don't think they're guests. I think they're consumers. Now, I would call them a guest because it's the polite thing to do. Bring the guests through or bring them by their name. I'm thinking they're consumers. When did I stop being a consumer? When you allowed me to. So I see them as consumers and I create a consumer strategy, not a guest strategy. So that means that you still have the highest standards of hair services. It's a bare minimum. You still have the highest standard of civility in how you treat the person. But I'm thinking all the time that they're consumers. I'm creating a consumer strategy and I'm maximizing on that. For example, I went to a salon a short while ago and I said, well, why don't you do skincare? I said, well, we're a hair salon. I said, do the people come in and have skin? And I would reverse that. If they're a spa, why don't you do hair care? Because you're in this comfort zone box. So why don't we do retail? Why don't you have concessions so with co-tenants to bring some of the stuff in there, and create a higher average ticket? Have a cafe bar. I'm talking about high-end cafe bar that a vendor would run it. You wouldn't run it yourself. But I mean, of course, this depends on space and it depends on location. You know, if you've got a high street, you've got a certain size, you can do that. But there are certain things we've got to stop thinking that this is what we do. Because in overheads, you need additional income opportunities.
Right. And, that's so true, is you need additional income opportunities, which leads me into what we do at the salon is not only do hair and skincare, because upstairs we have a spa, but we also have a big retail, not retail so much as shampoos and conditioners and what have you, but also accessories. This past weekend we had a pop-up clothing person came into the salon and she did a pop-up for several days. So we're trying to, like you said, get the consumer to buy other things other than think of it as a hair salon. Right.
And it's a mindset as well. I mean, look, consumers come to my house. I wouldn't want to sell to them. You don't sell to, you don't sell to guests.
Right.
Guests come in, you take care of them. It's a mindset. And that came from the hotel industry, and we adopted that name. But they are, if you always think of them as consumers.
Right.
Yeah.
On that note, I have to say that I'm very confused by the consumer today. And I'll give you this scenario. Maybe you can identify with this, but I did international travel for 17 years, and I'm a people watcher. I used to love to sit in airports and study people. And if you did that over a month or during a particular season, you really felt like you had a grasp on what was happening. I sit in airports today and I'm bewildered. I don't see a common denominator beyond casual. The hair, for being the generation of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, education and training, I look at hair. I don't see strong silhouettes. I see some good color out there, but I see a lot of bad color out there. I look at just how people are coordinated. And so I sit back and I think, well, who is the consumer? And who would you want to reach today, and how would you reach them? Because I think as diverse as the stylists are individuals, so are the consumers today. To find that niche product or that, it's challenging. It takes some purposeful thought to
It does, and you are right. Just like the staff, people are individuals, and what you have to do is study as much as possible to where the consumer's going, where they are now, but where they're going. If you want a sustainable business, you can't. Businesses, see, I don't believe in trends. Trends are what's in fashion now, could be out of fashion 2 to 5 years' time. I believe in sustainability. So create some. Quality will always be recognized by a segment of consumer. You will never please all the consumer, but they will gravitate to you if you have a clear, concise product or service. That will last through any recession.
Yeah.
Through recessions, there are people that have been extremely successful. So it's a matter of creating a new business model.
Yeah.
It's not something, a business model that you can outsource. It requires significant organizational introspection, courage, honesty, and design thinking, as you were saying. There's no off-the-shelf solution, no app, no magic to it, just a willingness to reinvent, reimagine, and risk the occasional mistake. Think of it this way: if it isn't risky, it's probably not innovative.
Exactly.
So when we started Eurisco Design, I knew that this is my market. Top 20%, the discerning, that doesn't want to look like the average salon, that doesn't want to look like the salon down the road. And I knew that I wasn't right for the, the other side. Look, the industry in the millennium fell into 3 categories: budget salon, chain salon, and high-end. What it was. This has evolved. Currently, we have seen a demise in the mid-market chain salons.
They're gone.
And there's no, because they had no point of difference. A growth in suites and independents, and a split in the high end, with some pioneers adding additional income opportunities, things we talked about, bars, etc. But the future, as well as doing what we do well now, will involve technology. So salons are saying that manufacturers and Amazon is taking away our retail. To a degree, that's true. So how do you do what Amazon can't do?
You do what Lulu does.
So I tell you how it can be done. Generally, what happens is retail's done in the retail area, and the stylist says goodbye to the customer, who walks to the front, and the stylist gets on with their next customer. What we're working on is smart mirrors built into styling stations. So you capture them in the chair. And what the stylist does is bring up the products they've used on the consumer. These are the products I used on you. It shows the features, benefits, it shows how to apply it, it shows what the product's links sell to that. And these are the products I used on you. Let me show you how you use them and how often. The chances of the consumer buying products when they're in the chair, and they pay in the chair because their features, becomes greater. It becomes greater. So, so that's one aspect of increasing retail sales by doing it through smart mirrors in the chair. The second one is to having websites that direct your database to the website with virtual reality, augmented reality. So that when you go to the website, this is what Amazon don't do. You have a virtual reality person that says, what type of hair have you got? What type of skin have you got? It's asking you the consultation questions you would get in the salon. Amazon doesn't do that. So you're capturing your database with an incentive to go to your website, that somebody's asking you personal questions about your skin and hair. And it's recommending the appropriate ones for you. So you're capturing them in 3 ways. You're capturing in the chair, you're capturing them on the website, and you're capturing in the retail area. Point and see. I was in London last year, and it's point and see. So you point at the product, and a window pops up behind showing the features, benefits of that product, and how to apply it. So by bringing that in, it's key. And it's personalized experiences. The other thing is when you go into a salon and you see you've got mature customers and you've got people in their early 20s and you've got one track of music playing for everyone, how could that be appropriate? People are at different biorhythms and different moods, and things have happened to them in the course of the day. Personalization. Now you have systems that have a 2-foot by 2-foot tile that's over the station, that's voice activated by the consumer. So you can say, Sue, I want classical music. And within the 2-foot square, classical music plays. You stand outside of that, it's silent. And Lulu, you could say, I want jazz.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm taking notes.
She's right.
You can say, I want jazz. And jazz plays within that 2-foot square. Another customer say, I've got a headache. I don't want any music. Personalization is the future of any business. Key. I mean, they're now coming out with smart brushes that you brush the hair and it shows the protein content, the tensile strength, and it sends it to the consumer's phone and you sell treatments. The technology is going to support business that actually supports. It's not going to replace it. It's not in case of that. It's not a case of technology. It's touch and tech. Is the alluring cocktail.
Right. And I think to what you're saying is technologies is where it's at. Because I know that when the stylist leaves, and they're trained, or a couple of them are trained, or follow the system, because I have an actual system. So they know that when they're doing the client's hair, that they're talking about the product that they use on it and how to use it. Then they walk the client to the front desk and they pre-book the client. So I have girls there that are 3 months pre-booked.
Yeah.
And or if they don't want to pre-book at that particular time, they can go to our website and book on the website if they find but you're giving the consumer options for them to make their appointment or to be ahead of the game. Yeah. And one thing you said also is for the consumer to go to your website and, they can write down what type of hair they have. I have been thinking about it, but I haven't done it yet because my web designer is also so freaking busy. Anyway, that's one of the things that, I have thought about doing. So I'm always thinking about the digital part, what sets us apart from other salons or other businesses in the area, and not only look at what salons are doing, but look what businesses are doing.
Oh, absolutely. You hit a very valid point. There are some excellent events in our industry. I mean, Serious Business.
Yeah, I go to Serious Business every year.
Right. They're great events, and they're very good to share best practices. But equally, you have to go outside the industry to find out what the best retailers like Walt Disney are doing.
Exactly.
How different events are happening of the future. Because if you surround yourself with successful businesses, then you'll glean something. It's the same consumer that goes into Apple Store that comes into our
Right.
It's the same consumer. We've got to think differently. We have to think differently. If we want to maximize our salon business potential, we must escape the usual initiatives and look at our business in a new way, the way the consumer sees it. We can control the nature and development of our thinking processes. Our ability to think, creativity is theoretically infinite. We need to understand fear is the biggest reason people buy. They buy because of fear. That's why we buy insurance.
Yeah.
That's why certain skincare, fear of getting old. We're in an industry that bases its strategy more on feelings and facts. We have no choice but to look at the business differently. And the biggest difference will be in our bottom line.
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally critical. The quality of our business, of our salon business, let's say, and your life is in direct proportion to the amount of risk and uncertainty you could comfortably live with.
That's so true. That is so true. So I know this was Sue's questions, but I'm going to ask anyway. So you wrote 2 books.
Yes.
And you sent us your last book that you wrote. And forgive me, I did not read all of it, but I read some of it. And it's From Comfort to Growth.
Yes.
And so let me read this to the audience. There's a little blip that you said in there. The most powerful competitive advantage of the future will be a mindset based on a clear-eyed recognition that we, as an industry, have to come to a point where there is more risk in adhering to the status quo than there is in defining it. Indeed, we are approaching an evolution fork in the road of the 4 salons. They are those that will follow old rules into extinction, which with the pioneers will rapidly adapt to a new business model reality. So can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, well, mindset's critical on running a business and your personal life as well. So, if your personal life is not in a good place, chances are your business is not in a good place. And the view you adopt about yourself profoundly affects the way you think. How you think affects the decisions you make and the way you lead your life as well. And the way you lead your life affects the vision and mindset of your salon business. We mystify the idea of a personal experience, for example, like it's a dark art. But at a molecular level, all experiences are just an amalgam of content, emotional, physical, and digital, and intellectual content. The difference between a generic experience and a personal one is the quality of the content, and that's about mindset. I said this earlier, but just to repeat, the quality of your salon business and your life is in direct proportion to the amount of risk and uncertainty we live with. And you're most likely not be willing to step out of your comfort zone and into a discomfort until you are extremely uncomfortable with the comfort zone itself. It's your mindset is critical. It's where you are. And on an emotional scale, we fluctuate during the course of a day.
Yeah, we do.
Somebody gives us good news and bad news, it affects our mindset.
Exactly.
On an emotional scale, 10 being high, 1 being low, and 5 being equilibrium, most people fluctuate between 3 and 8 on a daily basis. I've trained myself to fluctuate between 4 and 6. I don't get too excited. I don't get down. So I stay within a fluctuation that enables me that if you approach me with something at 9:30 or 4:30, I'll probably give you the same answer. I'll probably come up with the same decision. Now, it might not be a decision you like, but it would be consistent with when you in business, if you're giving, or in personal life, you're giving a decision when you're emotionally unbalanced, that affects people's lives.
Exactly. Wow.
I think it's possible, Lulu, that we've interviewed a mad genius today.
I think so.
I think it's possible. I think we may have. And I definitely want to read your books. Yeah. Deep insight. Wonderful, wonderful to talk with you. I always ask every guest this because I like to know if there's something that makes people tick. Because in the dark hours, which you don't have, when the devil is at your door and the banker is in the back of your mind, what sustains you? Do you have a motto, a credo, a past experience?
We are all a product of our history. Because I'm a clinical thinker rather than one, I think carefully about every major decision. I create a plan, a strategic blueprint about everyone. This minimizes chance of failure. This increases chance of success. My heroes are people like Churchill.
Absolutely. Love Churchill.
Nikola Tesla, Da Vinci,
Yeah.
kind of the first women prime ministers, what they had to do to get to the top, like
Yeah.
Golda Meir,
Yeah.
the one that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm fascinated by people that have made an impact on society and what made them tick. So I don't particularly have, I've got lots of things that I follow, but I don't have that I
Yeah.
tell you what I do believe. I'll just share this with you. Every morning in Africa, an antelope wakes up. It knows it must outrun the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning in Africa, a lion wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the slowest antelope or it'll starve. It doesn't matter whether you are the lion or the antelope. When the sun comes up, you better be running.
That's great.
And that's what I believe. Just make sure that you are prepared and ready. What I said at the beginning, think of what the competition are doing and do completely the opposite.
The opposite.
Make sure it's sustainable. Make sure it's in alignment where the consumer's going. And if you do that, you'll always get up excited.
Well, thank you so much. You have been such an inspiration, not only to the audience, but also to us.
Yeah.
So I've made some notes. I'm going to read your book, and some of this I've already done. Some of it I'm going to do. So thank you so much for this episode.
You're welcome.
We learned so much and from you, and you're incredible.
Maybe we'll have to ask you to come back on the show in maybe a year and share the new technologies that you're doing with UNESCO and through your salon design. I love where you're going. I love it. Love it.
So
Thank you. I will. I mean, I'm planning to go where the consumer's going.
yeah. And that's where we should all be, is where the consumer is going.
And what makes you so unique is that you actually have a beat on the pulse of where it's going, where a lot of people are just trying to copy what's already been done. That's what's so refreshing. It's a new vision. I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wow, what an episode. That wraps up another exciting edition of Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you're leaving inspired and ready to chase your dreams. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode over at youtube.com/artists, icons, entrepreneurs, as well as Facebook at Lulu Benavides, on IG at Lulu Benavides, at Evolve Hair Solutions as well. And don't forget to visit our website at lulubenavides.com and evolvehairsolutions.com to stay updated. Until next time, keep dreaming big, creating boldly, and making your mark on the world. Thanks for listening, and take care, everyone.